Deer
Fire
Trail.
trucks would be about the only thing we'd ever have to worry about, the biggest
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, good point.
But still, he's a long ways from Deer Trail there.
Yes, my house is actually, it's quite a ways off of.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Williams, any questions for the applicant?
Just to clarify, that 20 feet that you're asking to be vacated, that actually will end up being your easement, your 20-foot front easement?
That would be considered my,
I think you've already got,
well, would it be considered my easement, or would that be just considered? It would be taken away from y'all's easement.
Yeah, it would just,
Your
it would be vacating the area, so that we wouldn't have access to that point. So it would technically be,
Be your setback.
A
at that
setback,
point.
yes.
Yes.
And part of your desire to do this is so that you can clean up and meet forest.
Which actually,
forests.
I've already done. So I've already had Tanner come in and get everything cleaned up, because it was too close. It was actually,
Yeah.
the brush was touching my house at that
Yeah.
point, so, yes, sir.
Yeah. Sorry, Commissioner Williams, did you have another question, or did that help with your clarification?
I guess the point is then that that would be an unbuildable area. Should it be vacated to him, it would be considered easement and not buildable property?
Yeah, it would be part of the, he would have to have it set back, so we wouldn't, because there's the 20-foot setbacks that we have.
Right.
Yeah,
yeah, the only thing you've got in it is just the stairway right now, and that's an open stairway, it's not closed in, so.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
isn't part of setbacks.
That's actually allowed, I believe.
Yes.
yeah, yeah, it is.
Makes sense to me.
That sounds good.
I'd entertain a motion for,
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Based upon the foregoing findings of Fact 54-73 of the Village Code, I move to recommend approval to Village Council for the request to vacate the 2,700 square feet of right-of-way along Deer Trail to be absorbed into the property located at 105 Deer Trail for case PVC 2024-39 with the conditions stated in the case report.
excellent. I have a motion.
Second.
I got a motion in 2 seconds. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, we'll go to roll call vote.
Commissioner Byers?
aye.
Commissioner Hall?
Aye.
Commissioner McLean?
He's not present today.
Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Richardson?
Aye.
Commissioner Raisby?
Aye,
Commissioner Williams?
Aye.
Motion carries.
great. Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
I think we have a document for you to sign, and this was just a recommendation to council. So the next step would be going to Village Council with this.
Okay.
And that's, we probably don't have it scheduled yet.
We'll get it set on the next meeting that we can. So
Okay.
probably our May meeting.
Great. Thank you so much. All right, let's move to the next one, which is conditional use CU 2024-37. I believe this is also related to number C as well. We got to vote on B before we can go to C, which is the site plan. Is the applicant here? If you don't mind coming on down. And while you're coming down, we'll get you sworn in here in a second. Stephanie, will you tell us a little bit about this application?
Yes, the applicant is requesting a conditional use approval to develop 3 duplex structures to be used as multifamily housing within the C1 Neighborhood Commercial District located at 103 Alpine Village Road, Lot 7B, Block 8 of the Forest Heights subdivision amended, and the applicant is available for questions.
Great. Thank you, sir. If you don't mind raising your right hand, stating your name, and then stating that you'll tell the truth, please.
James Concha, swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but.
Good. Thank you. That's perfect. Thank you, sir. So tell us a little bit about what you're looking to do.
Well, what we're looking to do on that corner lot is to put in 3 sets of duplexes for long-term rental. These were already approved at one point when Leaf Younger had it. We bought it from him, and he never started construction, so we bought the lot and the plan along with it. So I think we're just renewing or redoing the conditional use application.
Okay.
And however, I do have a question on this site plan. Stephanie redlined where we wanted to do a covered porch, because it was encroaching into the setback. I don't know if your plan probably does show that.
I'm not sure that it does.
Discuss
Yeah.
on the next piece.
Yeah, so first we got to vote to approve the
Okay,
conditional
all right.
use. So whether or not we would think this is a good use for this within the C1, and then we can talk about specifics within the
Okay.
site plan. So commissioners, what questions do we have for the applicant as it relates to a conditional use for this property?
My questions are more related to the next phase.
As far as it was, I do recall when Mr. Younger, wasn't it?
Yeah,
He said that when he came, and we did, as a commission, approve the conditional use for that purpose at that point in time. And so I see no reason that we shouldn't reapprove it.
And you're next door to the police chief too, so you're pretty good. Either way.
Yeah, I think that is right,
That is correct.
Michael, that was approved, and then the reason why he's having to come back is because one of the conditions was not met at that time. Was that starting construction? Was that the one that was not
That is
met?
correct, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from the commission? Commissioner Williams, anything to ask about the conditional use for this property?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I think most of my questions are related to maybe the site plan.
So you want a motion on the,
Yeah, let's get the conditional use approved or
way.
voted on first. So let's talk about that, number B, or letter B, I should say.
did we need to open it up for the public and all that?
Oh, I didn't
before we
do that, sorry. One second. Is there any comments from the public? Thanks for keeping me honest. No, you should move to this chair.
I just didn't want to have to back up.
No, I appreciate it. Any comments from the public for this item? Okay, seeing none, we'll close public input. And then if there's a motion,
Yes, based upon the foregoing findings of fact per 54-68 and 54-99 of the Village Code, I move to grant the requested conditional use approval for case CU 2024-37 with the conditions stated in the case report.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll move to roll call vote.
Commissioner Byers,
Aye.
Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
Commissioner Richardson,
Aye.
Commissioner Rigsby,
Aye.
Commissioner Williams,
Aye.
motion carries.
Okay, great. So that's for the conditional use, and now we can move into discussion about the site plan. We'll get Stephanie to do a brief overview. If there's anything else she would want to add. If not, we can move to public input. Stephanie?
For the development of the property, it did go through development review. Starting on page 38, you will see the notes provided by each individual department. I believe there are questions about the setbacks that were provided and started to discuss by the applicant, just for clarification. At the time of the review, the setbacks were not shown. I did receive an updated site plan after the fact of the review and packets were published. It does show that there's a little over 2 feet in between him and utility easement that is present on the property. And typically, all development is asked to be 5 feet away from that. So I did provide that to him in hopes that they would be able to alter their covered porch area to ensure that there is no potential damage to be received to the structure, in the event that there be any type of maintenance performed within that utility easement. So, that gives you a little bit of backstory on the questions you may have for them.
Okay. Thank you, Stephanie.
Steph,
Before we get,
okay, no.
we'll open it up and then we can ask Stephanie a question if that's cool. We'll open it up to public input. Seeing none, hearing none, we'll close public input. And then now we'll open it up for questions for Stephanie and/or the applicant.
Yep. Stephanie, I was just wondering, on the covered porch, what utility is it that's potentially affected by the covered porches?
It doesn't state, so the setback requirement in this district, is the 20 feet because it adjoins the, R1. And the section of the easement, shown on his plat is 7.5 feet, wide of that easement. And he's potentially only 2.5, I believe, I don't have it in front of me, or 2.7 feet from the utility easement line.
2.3.
2.3 is what it has.
Okay, sorry.
So is this on the back of these condos?
On the back,
Okay, so you're 2.3 feet into a 5-foot setback on the back
right.
for an easement.
However, in this case, all the utilities are in the front of the house. So there's overhead power in the front, water, gas, sewer, everything's in the front. And this back easement is free of any utilities. And also, I found section 54-140, number 3, which states permitted encroachments in rear yards. It includes laundry, drying equipment, patios, covered porches, which may extend 20 feet into the rear yard, but not closer than 10 feet to the rear lot line. And what I'm wondering is will this fall into that category?
Well, you're, what,
I can answer that. So section 54-140, only reflects two developments within the R1, M1, and M2 districts, as stated within the codes. This provision does not apply to the C1 district, development standards.
Okay, so at this point, if we were to shorten the covered porch, what would be another 2 foot 7 inches, 2 foot 9 inches? We would be within the approved setback?
I believe that is the case. Is that correct, Stephanie? If the back porch was, I don't know how wide it is now, but if it was,
It's 10 foot out from the house.
so if it was let's just round it, if it was a 7-foot or an 8-foot covered porch, he'd be out of the setbacks. Is that correct?
7 foot, yeah,
7
definitely.
foot.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, we could potentially do the 8 foot because I believe that's easier on building than a 7-foot span, with building materials. So 8 foot, I feel would, be doable and meet the requirements.
Okay, so just to ask, what would the difference be between the other couple of feet?
We would require a variance in this site plan.
So we can get away with no variance as long as we kept it.
Within
As
the 8
long as
feet.
you're adhering as is, yep.
Okay,
Yeah, simplifies the process.
all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be perfect.
Okay. And so those are for all of the porches that are on the back part of these duplexes, correct?
Yeah, it would all be the same size.
It'll save you a lot of money.
It will save you money too. And I don't necessarily see these on the back part of I just see a square box that's 50 by 50. Are these,
They're kind of there. It says covered porch. It's hard to read.
It's hard to read.
It's right, yeah.
It would be on her red line copy, I don't know if
okay,
you see
I think
that.
is it?
Yeah, we don't have
so it's
that.
this right here?
Yeah, I think
It is the area where it says covered porch, the actual dimensions, of the porch were not
Probably the
present
eave,
at
the roof
the
just
time
comes
of
out
the
over and.
packet.
Okay. All right, that makes sense. So there's 3 along the back, and they'd be essentially
8 feet.
8 feet deep.
Stephanie, let me ask you this. What about the overhang? So it's over 8 feet above ground, so if we had a 24-inch overhang, that would be fine on the roof?
Over the porches?
Yeah, just typical of what you would do on a roof.
Because that's the way everything else is. It's to the building itself, not the overhang.
It's not the overhang. So I don't think and Stephanie, correct me if I'm wrong, the overhang isn't necessarily measured unless it crosses either a property line or something of that nature where we would have already had to take action on it, correct?
Yeah, so the only part that really does cover, roof overhangs and projections and all of that are when you're talking about balconies and such, only within the R1, M1, and M2 code in the section 54-140. In the code for C1, I'm not finding any type of provisions, for that. It just gives the strict, 20-foot requirement setbacks.
And commissioners, that would be a general part of building processing. I don't think it would be something we would take into account unless we had it in the code. So,
Sounds good.
Mr. Chairman,
Yep, Commissioner Williams?
I'm not sure that it varies for C1, and maybe it isn't listed or included at all, but I thought that there was a 5-foot overhang permitted
R1, M1.
eave on the covered roof, the eave, the roof, and that's into a side. There's no mention of rear, I don't believe.
Yeah, I think that's for the R1 is what we're discussing. I think there's nothing explicitly stated for the C1 district. So, yeah. So I think the feedback that we're getting is that overhang shouldn't be an
It shouldn't be an issue.
issue.
Mr. Chairman,
Yep, Commissioner Williams.
I guess my next question then would be, is it really appropriate for C1 to be building condos in them or
Well,
duplexes?
that was just,
Should they not be rezoned as some form of a residential property?
that was just what we discussed in the conditional use.
Right.
Yeah, we approved that,
We weren't talking about overhangs and easements and
right.
that point.
Yeah, maybe that's a good call out for the future, is if there are building requirements that vary between zonings, we should call it out explicitly when we do our conditional use.
Mr. Chairman and Commission, what we'll do is, as part of the 54 review, especially the one that goes to council, we'll have a note on the items that are related to C1 with this specific type of building.
Yeah. Thanks, Michael. Other questions for you, Commissioner Williams, or concerns?
I just think the site plan is inadequate to even vote on.
Okay.
You don't have roadways, directions, entrances, exits that I could see listed. Could you pick them out?
I don't know if there's entrances and exits. I think it's all intended to be directly onto Alpine Village Road. It is a question that I have. The parking map that you've shared with us, it has spaces kind of all over the place, and some of them, would you be backing directly into Alpine Village Road?
No, there's, 25 feet between the front of the house. So that whole area in the front, I believe it does have arrows indicating direction. And it says driveway entrances.
Maybe we can see that bigger map then, because I don't know if
You
I
wanna-
can see it.
yeah.
Yeah, if that's okay.
Oh, maybe what's in the packet is not,
Yeah, that wasn't provided at the time of the packet or the development agreement.
And Commissioner Williams, I'm sorry that you don't have, we could text you a photo of this if that would be helpful.
So let's see here, entrance. Driveway entrances. So there's two, this area here is street level. So you would just come in off that end. This here is a drainage ditch, so there'll be a culvert here, culvert here.
Okay, so the intent is to still leave the
Yeah,
drainage
yeah.
ditch there because it drains out.
Right,
over
it goes
here.
under the street.
Yeah.
And this area here will remain kind of
That's a
open because
hill,
it's,
so we're not gonna touch it.
Okay.
Even back, well, this is the other property, but it's a hill along the back. And it's showing, these are drainage here, these arrows.
So is the parking, is this paved parking or is it
Yeah, this will be,
asphalt paved?
I wanna use millings.
Where's trash gonna be?
Trash is over here.
actual dumpster. look.
Yeah, I see
Is it
it
already
now.
existing?
No, it's just a
Just a flat spot?
flat spot where we could put a pad, or we could leave it just the way it is.
It's a long way to.
And there's, I believe the code states, Stephanie, this might be a question for you, parking spots per unit?
So for this development, they are required to have 2 parking spots, per each dwelling, so that would require 12. And then per ADA code, they would be required at least 1, handicap parking spot provided. I do believe that there are 1 or 2 present on the site plan.
Yeah, it looks like 2. Commissioner Williams, would you like a photo of this?
Do you think it will
I think it'll help.
enough?
Yeah, and I think it'll be large enough.
I think I might be able to share my screen. Let me see if.
Yeah, if you can, that would be great. Because Commissioner Williams, I think that this current site map that we're looking at now would address concerns that you might have.
Confirm that this is the site plan that you are looking at.
Yeah.
Yes, correct.
Yes, it does appear to be the case.
12, okay, so the handicap, okay.
Does that help?
Vicky, can you see that?
Yes.
Perfect.
Do I need to make it larger?
No, I think I could, I can do.
Okay. Okay.
Commissioner Williams, some of the discussion that they had on the table here was just identification of the culvert and drainage on the front side, the actual parking access that you have both on the far end where it says Lot 6 of the initial access, and then towards the middle, and then you have flat access directly to the road on that non-developed side. There was also reference made for dumpsters. You have one on the far end of the property on the backside where there's flat land located, but that has not been identified as the exact location, just as a possible location. And the rest of the commissioner, did I miss anything else?
I think you all had mentioned. Yeah, you got it, yes, sir.
And then, I'm sorry, there was one, just the directional arrows that were noted, traffic direction, and then on the back half of the condos, the drainage that's being identified and where it goes as well.
May have to slide further that way.
Let's ask Stephanie. Stephanie, the driveway entrances, is there anything in the code that would dictate where they need to be?
That is all based upon the determination of our street department. So all of that would be granted and approved, through them.
You can come up, Pam, if
So
you'd
prior
like.
to, obtaining a building permit, they would be required to meet with Josh from our street department, indicate the exact
get you
locations,
sworn in
and
so you
then
can say
follow
that.
whatever is, required and approved by our street department.
And Josh was out there already, so he's the one that went over these with them.
Okay.
And we'll
Well,
just
that's
have,
what the-
if that's the case, do you mind going and just stating that on the record that this, and Stephanie, the street department helped with this site plan, right?
Yes.
Thick neighborhood and, yeah.
That's correct, Commissioner.
Yes, they were present during the original development review. And
I just asked.
Josh is aware that we were going to need to ensure that we, work with the applicant on obtaining those working with Jerry with the solid waste department for the exact approvable location for difference.
Okay, thank you. And I think you had like co-applicant, I guess. Do you mind raising your your name? Say your name, and say you'll tell the truth and nothing but the truth.
Okay, I'm Kate Seidenberger. I will tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
Thank you. And your relationship to the applicant is just a co-applicant?
Yeah.
Okay. Just to confirm that it's not public input. Perfect. And I believe you were the one that was pointing out that this has been reviewed with the street department.
Yes, we met with Josh at the actual site, and he outlined where he wanted to see things.
Okay. So I guess there's no concerns from Josh and the street department about that driveway and
No,
entrance?
that's why I asked.
Yeah, fair enough.
No, he just said that we should keep the street drainage still going into the
Into the
culvert that
ditch, yeah.
exists.
Yeah, and as long as the culverts are sized for that, that takes care of that.
Great.
I guess the question is more for Stephanie. I mean, I guess the other big thing when I was looking through is the potential impact to off-site wetlands right on the other side of Sequoia. Is that something that's addressed in the building permit with stormwater requirements? How's that gonna work? Because there's
Yes,
not,
all of that will be reviewed during the building permit to ensure that adequate collection and drainage is being met.
okay.
And I do believe some of the areas of concern that were found by the development review was shown to be more in this potential area of where they're not planning to develop anyway. But she did want to ensure that she made the comments just in case for future development, that there are potentials of marshiness and different types of abatement needed in that area.
Thank you. So I think the only adjustment, and I don't know if it's on the site plan, is for that back covered porch to reduce, so so it's not within the setbacks.
Yeah, we held off on going ahead and redoing the plot plan until we got a definite answer on what we could do.
Okay. Sounds good. Commissioners, other questions for the applicant?
No.
Mr. Chairman,
Yep, Commissioner Williams.
question on I guess it's the west, lot line next to lot 6.
Mm-hmm.
Is that setback, I can't tell exactly how far that setback is, and the parking space that is allowed in it, will it allow still flow for cars through there as indicated?
What
Just a
it looks
parking
like to me,
space.
and correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, is
It's
that
water.
there's potentially 27 feet
These two.
Yes, I
from
think,
here,
yeah,
or
about
is that
15.
50?
That's all the way to something like
Okay.
that, 28.
So
Isn't it 20?
on this setback, they're only required to have 10 feet. The parking stall would not be reflected as an issue within the setback. That's mainly just for building purposes.
It's 27 feet.
I think
And
it's
there
actually
would still
15.
be a distance in between.
27
the
is that.
Russell Park area to that property line.
I think the setback is, what we can see is it's 15 feet from that corner of that duplex, but the setback's 10 on the sides. Is that accurate for
Yes.
this development?
So there's more than that.
So he's got 50% more than
Right.
required.
Yeah.
I can do a little bit of math. You see that?
Way to go. Wow. No wonder you have that job.
Yeah, well,
Nice.
we'll see. See how long that lasts. Commissioners, other questions for the applicant?
And again, I guess the stated purpose, this was for long-term rentals?
Yes.
Okay.
Excellent.
Is that something we should put
Is that
as a-
long-term only, never to be done short-term?
Well, I might pass away and whoever I will the property to.
Oh, I mean,
Because that is part of our concern. You know.
The intent on building these were for long-term rental because we have a housing shortage here.
We definitely do, and that's part of why it's been brought up, and, we'd really like to see.
Personally, I mean, the money's there, but I don't really want to deal with,
Nightly,
yeah, seeing as I just live down the street,
yeah.
so.
And Mr. Chairman and Commission, just as a side note, we are actively working through multiple boards and through the short-term rental review to identify possible incentives for long-term rentals. So that will be something that will be coming up that the applicant may be able to take advantage of.
So as a potential developer, you saying there could be incentives to continue?
There could be, yes, sir.
Yeah, I think it's, not to put words in Michael's mouth, but I think we're very early stages in the understanding what is needed in the assessment of it. So it'll go through this board, it'll go through a couple other boards, but we're looking. But it's too early to say, like,
It has been identified in the Housing Board strategic plan, and I do believe there's something coming through this board as well soon, so.
Cool.
more to come. Commissioners, any other questions for the applicant for this particular site plan? If not, I'd entertain a motion. Yeah, Commissioner Williams.
Are these going to be individual homes for sale to people who wish that, or only for lease or rent?
Only for lease or rent.
Yeah, they're not individual homes to be sold.
Other questions, Commissioner Williams? And did you hear that answer, just to confirm?
Yes.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
yep. Commissioner Richardson.
based upon the foregoing findings of Fact 54-64 and 54-99 of the Village Code, I move to grant the site plan and concept approval for case SB-2024-44 with the conditions stated in the case report, as well as the revisions of the porches, or decks, or whatever you want to call it.
Thank you. Do I have a second? I have a motion.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll move to roll call vote.
Commissioner Byers,
Aye.
Commissioner Hall,
Aye.
Commissioner Richardson,
Aye.
Commissioner Raisky,
Aye.
Commissioner Williams,
Aye.
motion carries.
Great. Thank you, sir.
Got it.
Thank you.
I believe there's something we need you to sign, and you can have this document back. But thank you for your time. Thank you both for your time. Yep. Okay. Let's move on to the next item that we have. This is petition to rezone, letter D. Stephanie, what can you tell us about case 2024-52?
Today we have two applicants petitioning, Edwin Kraus and Daniel Schnasky. They own all three properties located along this section of First Street. They are all currently developed within residential standards, as you can see, provided within the case data starting on page 55. They are requesting to change their district from the current zoning of C2 to the R1 single-family residential. There are potentials for bringing these structures back into a more livable stance, which could entail demolishing and rebuilding for that purpose. As it stands with the C2 district, it would be prohibited from being able to be used as residential. So both applicants are requesting to be brought into the district on which they're adjacent to ensure that they can continue the use of their property. Also, I've provided pictures and topography to kind of show you the relation on where their properties sit in relation to the properties along the commercial joining district off of Borough and Sutter. There is an adequate topo change to where they sit higher, to where they wouldn't necessarily be negatively impacted by the commercial activity, and also to kind of show the area, if this was to be developed within the standards set by C2, that would prove to be more difficult as the roads are very narrow and the properties do not meet the conforming sizes for such development within that stance. I do believe Daniel is on Zoom, and I cannot see the audience, but I want to say Ed Wynn is available for questions as well.
Okay. Thank you all, and we'll get you both sworn in here in a second. So commissioners, two applicants applying for the same rezone. So there's a few different parties. So we'll start here. Do you mind stating your name
Edwin Kraus.
and then tell the
And
truth?
I promise to tell the truth.
Thank you. And then Daniel, I believe you're on. If you'll just raise your right hand and give us a quick intro and say you'll tell the truth. And I believe you're still on mute, but I can see your. Yep, there you go. Appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Okay, we can start with either one of you. Why don't you just tell us a little bit? Stephanie gave us a good overview, but maybe it'd be good to hear from one of you two about what you're trying to do.
Well, ultimately, there's a small cabin that's in very bad disrepair. It'd be very difficult for me to rebuild it to current code standards. So I would like to eventually demolish it and rebuild a single-family house to be my primary residence.
Okay. Thank you. And Daniel, anything to add for your application?
Because then, that cabin is my next door neighbor, so I totally approve of it. Because I'd like to see it cleaned up and be able to do stuff on my property as well. If I ever want to rebuild it or add on or anything. So.
Okay. I appreciate it. Anything else to add, gentlemen? If not, we'll open it up for public input. Okay. Anybody would like to comment on this one? I think you're our final applicants in the, back there. So I don't see any other public input. So at this time, we'll go ahead and close it. And we'll open it up for questions from the commissioners for the co-applicants.
Commissioner, if I may, we did receive one letter of support for this property. They also did recognize that the applicants are the only ones on that side of the street that have access from First Street. So they did support the request. I did not receive any negative input or responses.
Yeah. Thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate that. Yeah, and just a comment, and you guys can confirm, the only way to the properties are from First Street, and the drop from where your property sits to the commercial properties down below is like 10+ feet, isn't it?
Yes, yes, it is.
Correct.
Yeah, so very different topo. Commissioners, what questions do you have for the applicants?
I don't have any questions. I can reaffirm the fact that that street is very narrow.
Yeah.
And there is a big drop. That was old Mike Aldridge's place years ago, and it does probably need to be torn down, and it's probably a fire hazard at this point. And it would behoove the rest of the neighborhood to, I think, do this.
Yeah. I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think, Stephanie, you had said that if they were to develop it as C2, that the parking requirements probably couldn't be met for any sort of C2 building. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. So the lot sizes would make it very difficult unless they were to purchase all three and replat and situate a building proportionately to meet all the requirements for development and parking.
Okay, the other question I had is there's three properties, but there's 5 lots that were in the application, and I'm confused. Are there several properties that have several lots on them, or are those going to be replatted, or what's the story with those? Because you're asking them.
Currently, the address of 238 does contain multiple lots. I cannot see if, yeah, that one would contain 3 lots. When Mr. Kraus goes to rebuild, he would be required to replat that to ensure that the development standards and lot sizes are met to where the building doesn't cross lot lines. I do believe currently that structure does straddle along them, so that is something that would need to be cleaned up in the future.
Okay, and that would be cleaned up during the building permit process, all that as a requirement of getting the building permit. Okay. Well, that was my only question. I was confused where there were 5 lots and 3 properties, so.
Yeah, good question. Other questions? Okay. If not, I mean, I'd entertain a recommendation to village council.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
based upon the foregoing findings of fact per 54-65, 54-92, and 54-100 of the Village Code, I move to recommend approval to the Village Council the requested zoning reclassification for case RZ 2024-52, based upon the facts and findings stated within the case report.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll go into a roll call vote.
Commissioner Byers?
Aye.
Commissioner Hall?
Aye.
Commissioner Richardson?
Aye.
Commissioner Rigsby?
Aye.
Commissioner Williams? Motion carries.
Great.
Gotcha.
Thank you
Good
both.
luck.
Thank you both for being on. Next steps, it'll go to village council for the final stamp of approval or disapproval.
Hopeful approval.
Never know.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Exactly. And is he signing one on behalf of all the applicants, or do we need to get an electronic?
One is fine.
Yeah.
Okay, well, he dropped anyways, so, perfect. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
All right, we have one more. Stephanie, I believe the last one is a variance request, letter E, PV 2024-56. What can you tell us about this application?
This applicant is requesting to encroach 13 feet into the 20-foot corner side yard setback to construct an addition onto an existing home located at 102 West Santa Rosa Drive, Lot 2, Block 1 of the Wingfield Homestead Second Edition. I do believe Mr. Guerrera is available for questions. I do not have any written responses in favor or against for this case.
Okay. Michael? Yeah.
Chairman and Commissioners, there is one slight item on the staff recommendation. After further review and discussion and evaluation of the property, we do not recommend that the variance be approved. We did identify after review where we thought there was an original limitation by easement, that easement was a recommendation to be placed in to replace the overhead power easement. And so there can be development on a larger portion of the lot, but we'll allow the applicant to have that discussion before we move forward.
Okay. Thank you, Michael. State your name and promise to tell the truth, nothing but the truth.
My name is Andrew Guerra, and I do promise to tell the truth.
Thank you, appreciate it. So tell us a little bit about what you're looking to do with your property.
Actually, just want to go ahead and add those 2 rooms to that property. My wife and I are in the process now, is today, just working on the lot. It's been let go, so we're just trying to get that place going so that it'll be for us, to live in. And we're getting all the subcontractors together and trying to get things done and have a place for the family can come and enjoy the holidays.
And so you're looking to add 2 rooms on the property that would extend over into the setback?
Yes, and now, the setback was done, it's a 20-foot setback now, right? But it was a 10-foot setback back in the day. And that, a power line that's going across it is going to be moved. It's going to be underground. We spoke with the electrical people, and we have LeMay going to do the work. So that electrical line will not be there anymore. It will be moved and it will be buried.
Thank you. Commissioners, well, let me open it up to public input. I don't think anybody's here, so we'll close public input, and then we'll open it up to commissioners for questions. And so just for my clarity, the 3-foot trench that you have listed on your improvement report has not been dug.
No,
It's just the overhead power line that goes to the northwest corner of the home in terms of electrical, right?
yes, that's the electrical line right now that's in place. So we spoke to LeMay Electrical, and they're gonna be digging, well, I'm gonna actually get a permit for trenching, so I can trench it for him from that corner to the right side to, actually, he didn't want it right where I have it. He wanted it closer to the front of the house. So if you look at where it's at now, it's at the back corner of the home. He wants it at the front corner of the home, so I'm gonna have, after this, I'm gonna go next door and get a permit for trenching a trench for him.
Thank you.
So
Thank you
that
for
we can
answering
have
that.
So we can have that line underground. And we spoke to, you remember who we spoke to, Stephanie, in the electrical company? That nice guy, he came over to the house, said he would move the post over. Chris? Okay, so we spoke to a young man that, I mean, everybody there was helpful, and everybody thought that was a great idea, just moving that line, said it was the only line there. It doesn't attach to anybody else's, so he said that would be an easy move. So,
Okay. Commissioners, what questions do you have for the applicant?
It shows a deck on there. Is that an open deck?
it's gonna be an open deck, yes, sir.
Okay, then my question would be, why wouldn't you just swap the deck with where the addition is on, and then you don't have any issues with
It's a
this?
great it's a great deal that we've been looking at. It's the privacy issue that we have and also the noise issue. It just gives us a little bit more quietness there, and we don't really want to put a fence around our yard since the deer and the horses, it leaves it open as well, so that the only visual we'll see is the back, and it's high enough to where it'll actually view the trees. That's the only reason why, and as well as on the other side of that home, it's the living room, the dining room, the kitchen. So where the deck is at right now, if I put that bedroom there, then it would be on the other side where everybody's living. So it just wouldn't flow well.
But there's nothing physically on the property that would prevent the recommendation, right? Like it. you
No,
don't have
there's
topo and-
nothing on the property anywhere in that area to go left or right.
Okay.
Yeah. So when we're looking at that variance, it really, from the old way, it was just, it was 10 foot back in the day, and then it went up to 20 foot. I don't know when that happened.
Stephanie, can you clarify any of that, as far as the timing on, did those variances change? I'm not aware of that.
So the original ordinance was enacted in 1985. I do show there was a revision, and I'm unable to locate the revision in 2011. And then the most recent revision in 2021 was about the density and the uses that was done with the planning commission when we revisited conditional uses on our residential districts. But like I said, I'm unable to locate the revision that shows in 2011. But this property would have always been recognized as a corner lot. So I'm not sure if it was placed prior to the zoning overlay, or not. I don't have the data on when this was brought in or overlaid.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, Commissioner Williams.
does it really matter what the old codes were? If he's building new on the property, he must comply with the new codes, is that not correct?
I'll allow Zach or Stephanie to answer that, but that would be my interpretation. And they're nodding their head.
Affirmative.
Affirmative, yeah. Not shaking it. And ma'am, are you a co-applicant? Do you want to state your name and you can say you'll tell the truth, nothing but the truth?
Stephanie Reeves, I promise to tell the truth.
Thank you. And it seemed like you had a
Well,
comment.
because I look at things differently, and so on the right side of, I don't know directions, we're new here. On the right side of the house in the back, if we were add on, that lot is so sloped, so that's a huge elevation.
6 feet.
6-foot elevation to add on to that, which in my mind would be a lot more cost, a lot more complex construction, I guess. And since we're on the corner lot, that, where the house is now and the addition, we're just going in the straight angle of that, so it's actually only gonna be at 3 feet further than the house is now, because the house now is 10 feet into the 20-foot easement.
10 foot.
Yeah, it's 10 foot
10
into
foot,
the,
7,
yeah, and you still have a lot of space there between the street itself. There's a little drop-off there before it starts sloping down. So that's why, and like he said, just the privacy of being on that corner lot, so we don't have to put up a fence.
Okay, thank you for that.
So I was looking at more for cost reasons, because that other side is super high to add on
Not seeing that in the photos.
towards the back there.
Okay. Thank
I
you,
was going to
Commissioner.
see if Zach would remind us what the requirements for granting an easement of this nature
And
are.
I can go ahead and read them off for you.
Variance, yeah.
Variance.
So generally, the planning commission may vary or adjust applicants of the requirements for this article, in this case, as an irregular, narrow, shallow, or steep lot where other physical conditions applying to a lot or building are are impacted. So variance may only be granted for hardships related to the physical characteristics of the land and should normally be limited to regulations pertaining to height or width of structures or the size of the yard and open spaces where a departure from the literal interpretation of this article will not be contrary to the public interest or establish a precedent that would undermine the purpose and intent of this article. So really, you're focusing on the physical characteristics of the land, and if it's extremely limiting in building.
Right, the physical hardship of
Yeah.
being able to adjust a building. And, you know, honestly, looking at this, at the pictures, man, that's a real buildable lot in Ruidoso. I mean, you can, it's, granted, there's slope, but there's slope everywhere, and this is not extreme, and I'm not seeing a hardship that would force any addition into the required setbacks, and that's just my observation at this point.
Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioners, any other comments or questions for the applicant?
No, sir.
Bill?
No, I mean, I kind of agree with Bart's assessment. I'm looking at the pictures and trying to look and see that, I don't see the physical hardship. You know, I guess, as I said, if I was looking at doing a rebuild or rebuilding onto it, is what you could, if that home moved over 15 feet, you'd have plenty of room with all your setbacks. I mean, it's,
I don't know why it was there, yeah.
like I said, there was one, as I said, that where it's placed now, there's plenty of room on the plat. I mean, I look at it here on the improvement location, I mean, and I don't see any physical detriment to really, if you had to slide the whole construction 15 feet to the right or to the east, that you wouldn't have any issues with any of the setbacks then.
And we're bound by law to uphold the law as part of the
No, I get it,
process.
and just
Yeah,
like I said, it's just
and-
the aesthetics of it, that's what
Yeah.
we're looking at, you know,
Yeah.
I get that, that's what's gonna happen is the easement of 3 feet we look at, you know. I'll
Where
just-
the house was placed was,
Yeah.
Right,
you
and
know,
that's,
that's the.
But it's
yeah.
now 13.
we can't correct it.
Right,
Fine,
right.
We'll just put 8, I mean, like I said, we have 2
move
options,
it
we'll
over.
do that. We'll move it over, we'll put 8-foot privacy fence all around the back, you know, and we'll go ahead and encompass the back with a fairly large privacy fence. It's not a problem there either, yeah.
Yeah.
Commissioner Williams, any other questions for the applicant? And if not, okay, I'd entertain, we still do need to have a motion and a vote on this, so
Bill?
Hang on, let me get to the,
we need to make sure Bill's in the minutes.
Yeah, we
He
got to
hasn't
fill
been.
Bill in there somewhere.
I know.
Been very quiet.
Well, you know, I'm old and I move slow, so. All right, suggested motion,
Go back to our original.
based, you got anything?
I was just gonna say that you're probably gonna make this motion in the positive.
Yes, I'll make the motion in the positive and.
Yeah, for their sake,
Accordingly,
that they
yeah.
understand what's,
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, based on the forego findings of facts per 54-97 and 54-140 and 54-66 of the Village Code, I move to grant the requested variance for case PV-2024-56 with the conditions stated in the case report.
Okay, I have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second, any discussion? Okay, let's go through a roll call vote.
Commissioner Byers?
nay.
Commissioner Hall?
Nay.
Commissioner Richardson?
Nay.
Commissioner Waitsky?
Nay.
Commissioner Williams?
Nay.
Motion does not carry.
Thank you. Thank you for coming and spending the
Sorry,
time
folks.
today.
Thank you guys, appreciate it.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, and I hope you find an even better solution.
Right.
Oh, we will, yeah.
I think you will.
We had another option.
We're here in Rio Doso.
Right.
There you go.
We appreciate that, appreciate that.
all good from there on out.
attitude. Yeah,
We have not, I'm not kidding you, we have nothing but great things to say about the people here.
that's,
Especially the permitting people.
that's great to hear.
Yeah, that is.
Thank you.
Awesome. Yes, sir.
Thank you,
y'all.
really
Yes, sir.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Appreciate
All
it.
right,
We just,
I think that,
that's it right there,
Yeah.
so we'll do
Yeah.
is go ahead and just use that same, permit and just flip it around? Or do we-
yeah,
we do
I
the
think
whole
I'd work
thing?
with
In front of the
planning.
planning. Yeah, you would redevelop your site plan and use that for your building permit.
Yeah, so you'll have to resubmit the paperwork and talk with Stephanie again. Yep. Thanks, y'all, I really appreciate I really appreciate your attitude, yeah.
The application that you guys have turned in to the building department, the site plan, you're just gonna switch it around to what you're able to do since this case was denied, and give just the site plan with all the other things that you've already turned in to the building guys.
All we're gonna do is we're just gonna move over
Yeah,
10 feet.
that's all you have to do.
That's all we're gonna do.
Yeah, it's just revise your site plan.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you all, appreciate it. Okay, let's move through the last couple items we have. Stephanie, do you want to give us a community development report?
In the packet, I did supply a copy of last month's community development and department report. Just an overview of everything we've completed throughout, the month of February. And let me know if you guys have any questions on that.
Okay. Questions on the report for Stephanie?
No, that's pretty straightforward.
Our lodger's tax is up, so that's good, year over year.
Is that due to you, Christie? The more STR permits?
All the STRs.
Awesome.
I'm going after them for stuff too, to make sure that they're all caught up.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome.
There is
And
a,
then, on top of that, I do believe, Michael has a little bit of a presentation on 603 Meacham, just to give you a standing on where we're sitting on that.
I don't know about a presentation, but definitely an update.
Perfect, an update would be great.
Updates there.
An update on 603 Meacham. So we are, as to this variance, we are definitely identifying site work is going to be a lot more expensive than we originally thought. We are waiting for our final quote to come in today. We are hoping that once that's here, we will have a special meeting on Friday to be able to award the site work. The state has been aware of some of the complications with funding, and so they've reached out and asked us to apply for a new grant for about $1 million to help cover costs, so there still won't be a negative impact to the village. That application is due the 20th, but they asked us to submit it ASAP so they can review, so that they'll be able to award any funding as quickly as they can. Once we get site work done, we ordered homes today, so everything was finalized last week. The official review went out, and those have been submitted by the builder as of this morning. And so those are gonna be 10 homes. That's two bedroom, 2 bath, and 8 3-bedroom, 2 bath. Those will be placed in the queue. Those are identified to be completed as of May 5th, and they will be trucking them in as we have pads that are ready to set the homes. And so the idea will be, as we set each one of the homes, we can then spend down the original grant of $3 million. That'll cost us roughly about 2.8. We'll have an initial 200,000 to continue to mess with site work that we've already worked on. And by that point, we should have the other grant funds. If not, we do have funds in the general fund that we were going to utilize moving forward, but we can repay ourselves through that grant once it comes in. Finalize the site work by June 30th. We are looking to phase out the next half of the, because we don't have to spend any more money, we could phase out the utilities to be finished the late half of June, so that we're not rushing and everything gets placed in as according. We took some of the comments that came out of this meeting when we originally did our presentation, made sure we identified those hookups on all sides of the homes as was mentioned. And so we're going to do a little bit more cleanup on that with the utilities, but we should be moving forward. And then the expected date is still June 30th. We may come into July a little bit, but we will be looking to have what we're calling a parade of homes. There was a lot of individuals that were frustrated with the way we did 1114 Meacham. We're hoping that engaging the community through that parade of homes, people being able to look through them, identifying what's there, there will be more buy-in as we start moving forward on projects like this. So definitely something that's a positive. I also wanted to make a quick comment on our 9% tax credit application. It did move past the first round of evaluation. We were looked at as being the number 2 project as far as ranking and scoring are concerned, which is a positive. There's probably going to be 3 to 5 projects that come out this year for 9% tax credit units. And so that looks very favorable on us. While we're not 100% yes, being ranked number 2 out of at least 3 to 5 projects is a positive, and that looks to be adding 72 units to the community moving forward. With that, I'm open for questions, or we're done with our items.
Okay. Questions for the community development?
I think the only thing I think we added in the meetings, the houses on Meacham are going to be open to employees of the village. Is that?
So the houses on 603 are actually open to anyone working within village limits, not just employees of the village. So anyone within village limits. And so the idea behind that is to encourage more people to true workforce housing within the area. And since there isn't an AMI that ties people to income, they're going to be able to be afforded by anyone that qualifies.
Right.
It's working, okay.
Other questions?
No.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, Commissioner Williams.
I was just wondering, have you had any feedback from people in the village about the village owning property and being a landlord?
We have had some comments, both positive and negative. We've had the business community coming out in support of us moving forward, them kind of looking at the opportunities now that we're doing these things and with the MRA in existence and how we can incentivize. We've also had negative comments, business, the village shouldn't be in the business of doing housing units. Our concern is if we don't do it and private business isn't, no one else will, and then we'll suffer as a community. So we've evaluated both positions. We have heard both positions. We're looking to do some more education moving forward from a marketing component in the next 2 months. The Workforce Housing Board has finalized their strategic plan. A piece of their strategic plan is specifically related to engagement with the community about education and about information sharing on those items so that we can get more buy-in.
And I think the last assessment we did, and this was back in 2018, we were short like 300 units, if not more.
456 units.
Right,
Yes,
so
sir.
even with the village building 100 units with that 72 complex, we still need, my math's off, okay, so give me a break, but 300 plus.
Quarter of the way there.
Yeah, I mean, we still got a long way to go. So I think there's plenty of opportunity for private business to step in, especially with the
Well,
MRA.
We just saw one today.
Yes, exactly.
Well, and now there's, as we start evaluating different items, and I know, Mr. Chairman, you may have an item you'd like
Yes.
to discuss. As we start looking at that, we are having investors reach out to us more and more. There's new changes legislatively, I think, that are coming down the pipeline that are assisting with business incentives, especially new monies that are out. There's about $350 million out there for rental assistance, not assistance, but rental development. So that's definitely something that people are looking at with the addition of the MRA that community development has put into place. The ability to have public-private partnerships is now a possibility more than ever. So there's several different tools in our toolbox that we didn't have before that I think we're going to be able to utilize here in the next 6 months to the year moving forward for housing and enticing business to work on that side of the development, so.
Other questions for the Development Department? Okay, we'll move to commissioners' comments. The one comment that I had, and I talked to Michael and Stephanie about this topic. If y'all remember, it was about 6 or 7 months ago, we voted when we were doing a Chapter 54 rewrite to evaluate the short-term rental policy. And I know that many on this board would like to see a in-depth analysis of how we could maybe alter short-term rentals. Do we need to keep doing what we're doing now because we don't want to kill the quote-unquote golden goose? And so, you know, talking with Michael and Stephanie and bringing it to this forum, I think that's something that we would like to prioritize. And I'd love to hear comments from the commission about how do we evaluate short-term rentals? How do we educate ourselves so we can bring either good policy changes or updates to our code to the village? Because I know that there's been on this board issues about behavior. How do we ensure that the individuals that are staying there or the property owners are being held accountable for behavior, et cetera? So I think that's something that we're exploring. And Michael, I don't know if you have any comments on the best path of exploring that. I think we talked about a subcommittee.
Yes, sir. So, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, I think a subcommittee to at least have discussions that you'd want to see review Chapter 54, have items on from a board side, I think is important. I think you'll also hear situations and concerns and issues that we're addressing on the operations side right now. As you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, there's behavior issues. Right now, the way the current code reads, PD has to go out and actually cite an individual. And the problem is that you're not citing the individual that's doing the item, and you can't track that per the rental. You have to cite the owner. And so in citing the owner, we've actually shot ourselves in the foot to some degree because you'll never see an item go in front of a judge related to that property, right? And so there's different ways I think that we'd like to address those situations on how we'd like to do different things. I think there's some positives and negatives that we've been able to deal with. Obviously, the positive is the financial side and the revenue generation. I think the negative side is the impact that it's causing local residents. I think it's the cost to the municipality that we haven't really seen before, whether it's enhanced services that need to be provided, by sewer, whether it's enhanced services that need to be provided on the roadside, or by solid waste, because we're being called out more. So we definitely see this impact that short-term rentals are causing, but we do see the benefit in the revenue generation side. And so I think another item, especially that Christie deals with, is the evaluations of the permits to be awarded strictly to short-term rentals. And one, the process that we do that currently, I think we need to reevaluate that, and those are discussions I think we'd want to make sure you're involved in. And I think the second piece is being able to identify and discern what requirements probably need to be added to the short-term rentals moving forward. There are certain things I think that people are saying, oh, I don't need that. And it's not just from the building side, it's in multiple areas. And so subcommittee allows us to have those conversations, allows you to see data. And I think what ends up happening with the subcommittee is that we can create a formal document of recommendations, one that can go to council. And the main reason I think that that's important is because this department will also be moving towards starting the process of our comprehensive plan. As we start doing the comprehensive plan, I'm working on strategic planning with each one of the 16 boards that currently exist. So we want to make sure that we have all the data that we're evaluating, your discussions, concerns, and issues. And as we do the Chapter 54 rewrite and the adoption through council and strategic planning, and now the comprehensive plan, we have all of these things that can fall in a line so that in the next year moving forward, we have a formal process to move forward, address issues, and really kind of identify the issues that we've seen and figure out how to better address them and have a solution for them. So those are, I think, Mr. Chairman, that's kind of my recommendation on the process is how I'd like to move forward, but that first step is that initial subcommittee.
Yeah, because I mean, the thing that I see, share with you, just my experience used to deal with this from a mining perspective, but you said they have to cite the owner. Why can't we also cite the people renting in addition to the owner? Because like I said, to give you perspective from where I spent 30-plus years of my perspective, if we had a contractor working on site, if they weren't up to code for all the MSHA standards, they got a citation and we got a citation. And it was simply, as I said, because that was the way federal mining code and MSHA regulates the mining industry. Is that something that, do we have that ability set in place now to do that? Where if it's the renter is the issue, but the owner, like I said, as I understand your explanation was that it has to be cited to the owner. Well, when the police respond, the owner ain't there, it's the renter that's there. So it'd be one of those things where, but the owner is the one that's responsible for the property. Whereas, like I said, when we were mining, if we had contractors on site mining, we're responsible for the property and we're responsible for the contractor. If the contractor screwed up, we were also cited for the same things. Now, why does that matter? Well, that matters because as the government goes through and the level of fines are based, it's a point system, and your point system adds up. I'm not saying you have to do a point system, but the bottom line is that was the way both were held accountable.
And Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Hall, the way we have it set up right now is a point system. It's 3 strikes and you're out, basically, or 3 points. The problem is that the way a unit gets the point is if the individual that owns the property, to your point.
I get that, but if you've got.
And so we haven't, that's as per our ordinance. So the individual still gets tagged with a ticket or noise ordinance or things like that we can write up. We just don't have a way to formally associate that with the property. And so I think as we move forward, those are the things, to your point, exactly, how can we tie that there? So that's important.
And I think even instead of, focusing in on that particular thing, I think it's good because this has been nearly 10 years of this new Airbnb world. Maybe it's time to evaluate it at a higher level. Maybe it's only been 8 years, whatever, but 2016 till now.
Your math is off, we understand.
Yeah, I did that one equation
had
right, and I got excited.
You had one success, and we're holding you to that standard.
Like, say, I own commercial property. So,
Right.
Our water, sewer, trash is on a different level than residential.
Right.
At this point, these people are they're running a commercial piece of property.
Mm-hmm.
They should pay commercial, water, trash, sewer.
I can't hear if your mic's not on.
Sorry, Vicki. Sorry you weren't here. I'm not gonna. So, but yeah, if you're running a business, And that's what they're doing. They're running a business. I mean, they're making money off this house, so it's a business. They should be charged commercial utilities as well. I don't know how the county would want to, do property tax and all, but still, I mean, it is. It's a business.
Tax them as a business.
Yeah, it's a business. So, I mean, so if you
Well,
have,
let's-
I mean, how is it, Zach? I mean,
But that's the subcommittee stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, instead of trying to
Is
get
it?
through
Okay.
point by point, I think, so let's talk next steps.
Well-
Sub,
Yes, that's what I want to ask, is subcommittee, who and how is this formed and when is it going to be formed?
So honestly, that would be up to this entity. If you all want to be on, Mr. Chairman, however you see fit to appoint individuals on the subcommittee. And then kind of just to, there isn't any requirement or regulation saying we can't or can have a subcommittee. So there aren't any decisions as to what the scope would be. This is more of an informal committee that would have discussions. I foresee that it can happen whenever you all choose to have meetings, you can set them aside because it's a subcommittee. It's not a formal meeting of this body, so it doesn't have to be posted or any of that other nature. Zach, correct me if I'm wrong. But we don't have to go through any of the formalities. And then I think the other issue is where I'm putting my time in is if we choose to do any type of public engagement, town halls for comments or things like that, we can definitely do those too and get people to have feedback so that when you come back with the questions and concerns you have, you can engage the community, you can engage businesses, we can have smaller meetings with private sector, public sector, whatever you'd like to do. And then you put your own timeline and timeframe on it. So if you all want to start meeting next week, we can start meeting next week.
Well, I would like to start throwing names in the hat for recommended members to this. I don't want to be a part of this subcommittee and run it, but surely there's some type of format or outline for a subcommittee to be.
So we actually don't have anything in the bylaws currently. We can kind of act as
Suggested.
or suggested that we would. I
And
can
we
submit.
could pick a whole, how many people should be on the subcommittee?
What I would do, because the mayor is the only one that has authority to appoint committees, it would only be individuals on this committee that can participate. Now, if you choose to bring in individuals from outside to have conversations with their meetings with, that would be fine. But the subcommittee would be made up of individuals from this board.
and then it would be experts that we can bring in to give their 2 cents and have conversations about what.
In other words, people like realtors and owners.
Realtors, I mean, the folks that were selling software to us to track short-term rentals, I'm sure they have a perspective
Yes.
on methodologies. There's others in Santa Fe, Taos, Vale, Crested Butte that have done other ordinances, like who have they talked to get information about from, So,
See, part of what I would like to see happen is people that actually are in the industry to be a part of the solution. Because if they're cut out of this process, they're going to be kicking the high chair.
yeah, so maybe it's a couple of town halls to the point that Michael was making. We have to be the subcommittee, but we don't have to limit who we talk to.
Yeah, and that I think is the key to Bart's
Stay
point,
open.
is that you get the business side of people that are dealing with it, and of course, the residential side of people,
Right.
that are there and dealing with it or
affected, yeah.
affected by it.
Why don't we do this, if everybody's cool with it? If you're interested from this board to be a part of the subcommittee, let me know. We don't have to make that decision now. I mean, I don't want to speak for Rick, but the race season's coming up, so I don't know if he has time for additional meetings, but I'll
Right.
reach out to him, ask him. If you're interested to serve on the committee, maybe we could start there, and then we can lay out a timeline of meetings and who we would possibly want to engage with. I don't think we all need to be on the committee, because the subcommittee should report to the main committee key findings and facts.
I'll, volunteer for, and I think we should set a time limit, a 1-hour meeting, and if we need more meetings, we can just,
Add them on there.
Yeah.
And what we can do as staff is we'll definitely draw up issues, concerns, an initial starting point of things that we've seen faced from an operations side. We can put a little policy item together of policy issues that we've heard and seen, just so that we can have a starting point. I think the first meeting that you all have is going to kind of come together, review those items, see if you want anything else related to where they fall either on operations or the policy side. And then from there, we can identify who you'd like to speak to, ordinances, best practices, those kinds of things.
So I guess the request from today, let me know if you're interested in the subcommittee. Bill's raising his hand already. You didn't even need time to think about it, huh?
No.
Commissioner Williams, you,
I have a question.
Yeah.
For that committee or for us in general, is there a way that we could get, the documentation that was used in several different cities, both in New Mexico and out of New Mexico, to try and control the short-term rental situation?
yeah, I think that's a great thing to add to the,
Do we need that information?
Well, and that's part of what the subcommittee's for, is to gather that kind of information.
we'd want to be a compare.
yeah.
So first step is a subcommittee.
First step is subcommittee, and I think if you're interested, let me know, and then we can get rolling on it quickly.
You know,
Put me on their contact.
Okay.
I got nothing.
You don't have businesses to run or anything like that? Yeah. Okay, all right, I think that's a good, any other comments from the commissioners? Doesn't have to be about this item, just in general.
The bears aren't up yet, so.
Speak for yourself. Come to the Upper Canyon, they're already up there.
I know, I waved at you. the other
Poor
morning, and
Victor is already, I see him every morning
You
already.
see them all.
I waved at you the other morning and you were like, what the hell is
Yeah, I was like, man, who's that guy driving too fast down Main Road?
that? I had to go to work.
Uh-huh, yeah,
I actually slowed down when I saw you.
I appreciate that,
Then
you
I
didn't.
stood up when I got back.
Yeah, I was wondering. All right, well, I will entertain a motion to adjourn if there's nothing else.
Motion to adjourn.
Second that.
No discussion? All right, we'll go ahead and adjourn. No need for a vote on that. Thank you all. And thanks, Stephanie.
Public hearing on the variance of the case that I referred to at your last meeting
Yes.
about how the court analyzes the.
I'm already gone.
No, you're there, Vicky. Do you have comments?
I'm looking for my unmute.
No, you're there. Thank you.